I mean, they are saying it is a rival to One Belt, One Road, which was created by the Chinese. Now, in this particular aspect, there are about 6 to 7 countries involved. And all these countries have stakes in it. And they're not dependent on loan. See, so that is one particular point. And all the countries are sufficiently well developed to contribute to it in a positive fashion.
Hello and welcome to The Gist on StratNewsGlobal. Good evening, I'm Surya Gangadharan and welcome to another edition of The Gist. This evening we are looking at Saudi Arabia, and as you're aware, the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was on a state visit to India last week, and we had some key agreements signed, including a declaration on the India, Middle East, Europe trade and transport corridors. So clearly winds of change blowing there through the region, including and especially in Saudi Arabia, and that's where our focus is for this evening. I have with me two gentlemen who were in Saudi Arabia only recently, I think last week. Mr. Arvind Gupta is director of the Vivekananda International Foundation. He was also Deputy National Security Advisor. And General RK Sawhney was Chief of Military Intelligence. He's also head of strategic studies at the VIF. So gentlemen, glad to have you both. Very quick question for both of you. Mr. Arvind Gupta first. Your initial impressions of Saudi Arabia, and have you been there before?
This was my first visit to Riyadh, and I had never been there before. So what I saw was absolutely amazing, because I had an impression that this is a conservative society. Everybody is, being washed. There used to be this morality police there. Women are not free to move, etc. But all that changed, I think, once we arrived there. It was quite clear that the Crown Prince has now unleashed forces of transformation. So what we saw was a major transformation that Saudi Arabia is undergoing. And this has several dimensions. One is quite clearly the women. Since he has come, I think he has dissolved what we call Butawa, or the morality police. So women today are free. Their share in labor force is growing, and they have some very ambitious targets to bring women into economic activity. And that in itself is unleashing productive forces for Saudi economy. So that's, I think, the enthusiasm amongst young women, because Saudi Arabia is a very young country. Enthusiasm amongst young women that we saw was quite remarkable. The second component of transformation is the economic transformation that is taking place. So they have this Vision 2030 program, which is a very comprehensive transformation program. We started a few years ago, and it will go up to 2030. And this requires transforming Saudi Arabia into an economic production hub, into a transport and logistics hub, and a tourism hub, entertainment and sports. So there are many components to this economic transformation. And third thing that I think we saw was a very major change in the foreign policy of Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, over the last a few years, has transformed its foreign policy, and very recently they normalized their relations with Iran. So which is going to have a major impact on the regional politics as well. Plus the fact that their relationship with their traditional partners like the United States, they're also changing. And China is a new entrant. And I think so there are many aspects to this transformation. So that's what we saw.
General Sawhney, you were there about 20 years ago, I think, as when you were Deputy Chief of Army Staff. So a quick word on what you saw then and how you compare that with what you saw today. And also a sense from you that normally when authoritarian governments start liberalizing, there's usually a pushback, whether at the ground level or at some other level. Did you notice that? Was that talked about? What is your sense?
And now that you ask me my old memories, first time I passed through actually Saudi Arabia to Riyadh about 20 years ago. And it was a place which gave you a feeling of restrictions. There was a officer, I won't name him, from the embassy who came to meet me. And he told me that life was very difficult in that country because his wife couldn't go out. She couldn't go out alone. She couldn't drive. And there was no place where he could go with his wife, with his family. And there was no entertainment place at all. So in a way, he said that the life was absolutely miserable. But what I saw this time was a complete transformation. Just imagine you enter the immigration and 90% of the staff is female. And when you come out, you see there is a feeling of liberation. Actually, it appears as if very intentionally, methodically, the Crown Prince has decoupled the country from this old image of dogmatic and orthodox and regressive Islam to a modern country. But that's a very, very amazing change. And as the director was bringing out, this sort of a sense of enthusiasm, you find is very infectious. You go out, and the old image one had of these laziness has gone away. You met a sort of a enthusiasm which is infectious, actually, if you ask me. So the country is going, it appears, and it can't be a put-on show for us. Because when you meet people, for example, we had gone, as he mentioned, to one of the museums, where the guide was a young lady of 22. And she was articulate, sophisticated, and very knowledgeable. And when we were going around, we came across families, we came across women who were chatting, discussing, and on their own sitting in the restaurant. So actually, as a matter of fact, if you ask me, this is the aim of Crown Prince, his 2030 vision, which was talked about by director. I think it envisages many things. It envisages Saudi Arabia as the center of the Muslim and the Arab world. He also aims to become the powerhouse of the global investment. And he wants to convert Saudi Arabia into an epicenter of connectivity between Asia, Europe, and Africa, which again is a very, very marvelous sort of a thinking.
But what about the pushback, sir? Is there a pushback?
If you seriously ask me, it's very difficult to know in 4 days the pushback. But generally, by and large, this change, the transformation he has brought out, appeared to be giving a liberating sort of a atmosphere to the populace. Just to tell you that in Riyadh, there are 450 entertainment centers. The restaurants are aglow. I mean, anywhere you go, any street you go, there are restaurants which people go and come. So if you ask me, the pushback, if it was there, it could have been visible. It always gives you, whenever you go to a country where there is a possibility of, this is suppression, or they want to have a pushback, it is slightly visible. It wasn't there. So, but as I said, we were there for 4 days, but when you talk to people, you talk to embassy, we talk to the diaspora. You'll be amazed that we talked to about 20, 30 of our Indian, and majority of them were Muslims. Their feedback was very, very positive. And what they said was that there is a special place for the Indians in Saudi Arabia, which made us very proud. They said amongst all the immigrant workers, they trust Indians the most. So when you talk to people who had lived for 20, 30 years in that country, and there were quite a few of them, the Indians there was a feeling that the changes which have been brought about are welcomed by the general population. And one of them talked about the area just about 40, 50 kilometers from Riyadh, from where this morality police came from, was the tribe which came from. He says, you go and see that particular town. It's completely changed, modernized. So there is a change which I think will be very difficult to be reversed. But you never know. But this is our impression that this change which has come about is going to be permanent.
Master Gupta, you've been around in the Foreign Service. When a society like this is subject to such transformation,
Yes.
Is it that easy? I mean, is it permanent? Are we looking at a Saudi Arabia today which is going to be permanently on this track?
I think this is a very good question. We have seen transformations in so many places. We have seen it, for instance, in Soviet Union. Soviet Union disappeared and Russia came, and initial years was very difficult. We have seen it in East Europe, etc. So yes, I think transformation can bring in a lot of difficulties, and this question of whether the people adjust to that easily is always a question. And I think we should keep our ears and eyes open as to what happens. Look for all kinds of other indications. So that is there. But if the transformation is well controlled, as it seems to be the case in this case, and it is comprehensive and actually really focused on two or three very important things. One is the economic transformation. If it begins to bring wealth to the country, and today I think this is what's happening, because the Saudi government, they are making sure that the oil prices remain high. At the same time, when the oil prices are high, they're coordinating with Russia, OPEC Plus, etc. So the wealth which is coming in, they're using it diligently to also diversify the economy and also build in non-oil sectors, and particularly the renewable energy and that kind of a thing. So I suppose this will have a change. The other thing I think which they are doing, and which is the case with us also, we saw when we opened up, slowly the positives started trickling in. And I think this is exactly what they're doing. They're trying to remove the inefficiencies from the system. They're trying to do tax reforms. They are trying to do the trade reforms, trying to do industrial reforms, etc. So it's a well-coordinated, comprehensive work. It is not something like happened during the Gorbachev time. It simply went out
The
of
chaos,
control. That I don't think is going to happen. Plus the fact, I think they're playing a very important, having an important focus on culture. It's not that society still remains conservative. It's not that, it has opened up or it has become like a Dubai.
Like a Western,
Or a Western thing. No. I think the ladies are still clad in burqas. They are still very conservatively, modestly dressed, etc. But the cultural renaissance that is taking place, hundreds of billions of dollars are today being spent for cultural renaissance, in terms of reviving the old culture by putting money in museums and so on and so forth. So that and remaining rooted in Islamic values. There is no question that Islam and Islamic values remain very, very important. But it is that extreme part of, very harsh part of it, I think that is where some opening up is taking place. So I have a feeling that they're trying to do it in a balanced manner, this opening up that is taking place.
Now, I'd like a view from both of you about the India, Middle East, Europe trade and transport corridor. Sir, your initial, from what not very much has come out of it, and I understand there's a study underway to flesh out the details. But you think this kind of thing which involves multimodal transport, you think that's economical? You think it will work?
You see, this is a change, what they are saying it is a rival to one belt, one road, which was created by the Chinese. Now, in this particular aspect, there are about 6 to 7 countries involved. And all these countries have stakes in it. And they're not dependent on loan. See, so that is one particular point. And all the countries are sufficiently well developed to contribute to it in a positive fashion. So multimodal, transport corridors have their own problems because they consist of the sea, there will be railroad, there will be sort of a transfer from one mode of transport to another. And the area that is along sort of a route. But if you go through the details, cursory details, it has to be gone into lots of complications which are going to be there. But 70% of the infrastructure is already in place.
The rail infrastructure.
Rail infrastructure, the ports, etc., are very much there. There are patches almost about 300 kilometers or 400 kilometers through Jordan, which requires to be, railroad has to be built. But those are not insurmountable. But those will have to be gone into a lot of details as to how much time it will take for the goods to go. And then once again, the seamless sort of a capacity to be able to transport there. So those things will be taking time, but the idea is a marvelous idea, seriously ask me, because it, as far as we are concerned, it is very good for us because we don't have to go through the areas which were difficult for us to ultimately traverse. And the investments which are coming in also are substantial. They are actually not been promised as yet, but the Saudis have already decided that they'll put in about $20 billion. Others have.
I see. No.
But all this has to be, ultimately it is little premature for us to talk about it. The details will have to be gone to, but it has got promises. It has got capacity. It has got potential which requires to be explored.
Mr. Gupta?
No, I entirely agree with General Sawhney. I think is bang on that it's a marvelous idea, but perhaps premature to talk about its viability, etc. But I want to look at it in a slightly different way. This is a very natural corridor of trade. And now a lot of research is happening, which actually would say that it's 2,000 years old, or maybe more.
Yeah.
It's because there was a very flourishing trade between India, the Indian seaboard, and this
Arabian
Peninsula, and right up to the Roman territories. So it is really resurrecting that idea, and I think India should certainly participate in it. Having said that, as he said, if the political will is there, then it can be implemented very fast. Why? One is that as far as India is concerned, everything is in place. All that you have to do is you have to make sure that the port connections, the shipping lines, etc., and the ports are functioning. So you have to just reach some agreements. And of course, there has to be the volumes. That is also very important. But infrastructure point of view from India and connecting it with the Gulf is the simplest part of it. Number two, the large part of it will be through Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is already in the midst of huge infrastructure construction. So if they find that there is, at the end of it, there is some benefit, so they will probably, the investment, etc., will not be a problem. Jordan and connecting with Haifa will be a little problem. But Haifa onwards, again, there is no problem. So a lot of it is already there. But where the problems will come in, one is that firstly to have a group together. And there are a lot of political issues also here, Jordan, Israel, that thing is there. But once the political thing is settled, I think the people who are involved have enough money and enough volume and business to make it happen. But yes, it's not going to be that easy. And we have seen that we have been talking about INSTC, the North-South Trade Corridor, for 20 years, and much has happened. And our old Chabahar also is not
doing well.
But this is a very big idea, and we should talk about it. And once we talk about it, perhaps Chabahar, etc., will also become viable. So it's a very exciting idea.
There are objections being voiced by various people. Turkey's president has said, no way that's going to happen. There are some other voices that are there. Turkey, frankly, is not quite a part of this entire thing. So why they're objecting, we're not clear. But what's your sense, sir, about the people there who may not be in favor of something of this kind? The Chinese also.
I don't think that, this idea which a time has come can be opposed like this, you see, because if there are, and the countries which are involved are not a pushover, actually both from economic and the strategic heft, they have got the necessary wherewithal to do it, and the political capacity also. But it has to be worked out, and objections, of course, will always be there from people who think that they have been left out. And the intention in this particular corridor is not to leave out people, to get all those people involved who are in the corridor. So the objection by Turkey is slightly surprising if you really ask him. But as the director has very correctly said, idea is extremely exciting. It's an ancient idea. You see, as he is saying that this trade route was already there. When you see that the trade was flourishing, trade was, existing in along this route, it can be revived, but it requires to be, discussed further. It requires to be, drawing board has to be, somebody has to sit down on that. But it is doable. It's very doable. And it's a very exciting idea.
To my mind, I think a critical aspect of this will be the Saudi-Israel relationship. So we'll have to see. Right now, there has been this Abraham Accord. Saudis are just sort of keeping cautious about it. But Saudis also, as a part of their Vision 2030, they want to, as you said, connect with these people. So if Saudi we'll have to see how the politics evolve. This is ultimately a political idea. Saudi, Israeli, Jordan. This is, I think, the most important point. So we'll have to see how it evolves.
I want to touch on the strategic implications of this whole thing. So I'd like both of you to answer that, sir. This entire transport corridor, the transformation underway in Saudi Arabia, does that change the way we deal with the Saudis, with the region? What more do we have to do?
I think that's already obvious. I mean, the Crown Prince's recent visit to India, a very ambitious document that has come out. And we are looking at 2047 as a developed country, and they are looking at Vision 2030. So there's already a synergy. And this will have a massive impact on the regional security if India and Saudi Arabia come together. And we are already seeing the transformation of Saudi Arabia and the change in their mindset is bringing some positive changes in the Middle East. Middle East has changed. In the last 5 years.
True.
The Yemen war is now winding down. Iran, Saudi are now normalizing their relationship. New actors are coming in, China, for instance. The Saudis and the Russians are coordinating in the OPEC Plus kind of a format. Saudi-US relationship is transforming itself. And there is at least $3 to $4 trillion worth of plans which the Saudis have in terms of investing. I do not know how much of it will fructify, but if you look at it, it's really ambitious, and sometimes one wonders whether the viability, etc. But the point is that this Neom city that we were talking about, Neom city, there are 5 giga projects, not even mega, 5 giga projects that which includes renewable energy, which includes this urbanization, which includes logistics hubs, etc., and cultural transformation. These are already underway. So you'll have to see how much is economically viable, not viable, and there is a lot of people who are out there. That we'll have to see. But I think at this stage we can only talk about the intentions and the vision. The vision is very much there.
Sawhney, your take.
The point is, you see, basically India also has to take note of it. We have got about 2.4 billion people workers in Saudi Arabia. But they are, blue-collar workers, actually.
That's right.
So there is a requirement, that's what the diaspora there, the Indian diaspora was telling, and we've also felt that. They have already spent almost about $3 to $4 billion in Riyadh itself, and as director was saying, $3.5 trillion are, which is going to be spent. So India has to upgrade its capacity to be able to participate. We should be talking of sending engineers. We should be talking of sending our, AI experts, our IT experts, our builders. We should partake in this sort of a rebel. Because what is happening today is, the blue-collar workers are being provided by the Asian, because like in countries like India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, etc. But the white-collar planners, actually, the investment people are from the white countries, from Europe and from America. So this is something which requires to be changed. Because Saudi Arabia they have got certain suspicions about the, Europeans or even American in some ways. But they are quite open to the Indian participation, especially Indian I'm talking about. Because Indians are respected in that country. So there is a requirement for Indians to be able to partake in this sort of a process of the transformation which is taking place, which will be quite, economically quite beneficial to us.
Is there also a perception among the Arabs, the Saudis, that Indians are good for that kind of work? And,
Absolutely. There is a respect for Indians. I mean, that was absolutely amazing. That there is a respect for Indians. They are absolutely, impressed with our progress which we have made. Actually, during that period when we went there, there was moon landing. There was the Crown Prince visit to India.
Yeah.
They had given the programs on India. India is progressing in different fronts. So there is a curiosity, there is a respect, and there's a desire for the Indians to come in. So that is something which we should not ignore. And we should upgrade the levels of the people who are participating in this process.
And also, I think we need to put together the legal framework for this mutual investment treaty, double taxation award. This is the standard thing.
Yeah.
Those things, if you start doing it, as he said, I think we'll have a problem in India to really meet the demand, not just in Saudi Arabia, in other places, of this highly skilled people, which includes really today the IT part.
Yeah.
So I think one way we have to really do is start focusing on, because we have the numbers and we have the capability.
Yeah.
But maybe we should do a good studies and do a mapping as to which part of the world will require how many AI, and meet. And I think, as is the case with many other countries, these countries are shortage of, there's no people, frankly.
Yeah.
So blue collar are doing, but now today, the skilled people will be required.
And you see, basically another point is that this sort of a thing, it will also make a mark. Should we send our Indians? And when we send our highly qualified Indians, they will not permanently settle there, thankfully. Because, if you send these people to Europe or you send them to America,
They'll stay put.
there is a brain drain. Whereas in this, if you send them to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, they'll always come back. That again is a positive sort of a way of looking at this, sending of these people to that area.
So last question, military strategic ties, the transformation in Saudi Arabia, is it going to affect the way in which we deal with each other at a military to military level, strategic dialogue? Do you see all that happening?
I think strategically, we are also, at the same page. We have had lots of strategic dialogues as far as, the Middle East is concerned. And so far as military to military cooperation is concerned, we have got ties with the Saudi Arabia for a very long time. And all the training institution of 3 services, we have Saudi Arab officers. And we have been having very useful and good exercises as far as the navies are concerned, armies are concerned. And also we have had, the feelers for joint productions, which we actually actualized. Because Saudi Arabia have a vision that by 2030, they want to manufacture 50% of their defense requirement within the country. I think that opens out possibilities of joint development of arms and other things, which something which requires to be very seriously explored.
You see, our relationship with the Gulf has been transactional.
Yeah, very extremely.
So this is our chance to make it very strategic. And economics alone will not help unless, because they are very important to us from the strategic and security point of view. So in the Gulf security, there are already changes that are happening. U.S. and Saudi relationship is a bit frayed right now, and we are seeing China is coming in. So, and in the security domain, a lot of new ideas, not just the military, there is climate and there is cyber security, the technology security, food security is very important. So I think this space is opening up now for India to speak to this and actually have these ties. So we have this strategic partnership council with Saudi Arabia. So that's a very good platform and vehicle to take these ideas forward. So we must take a comprehensive look at their security requirements and our security requirements. And I'm sure there are possibilities in cooperation.
And you think the Chinese are okay with this? How do you see the Chinese reacting?
I think what we should do is not worry about China. We should first
Do our own thing.
What our interests are. Obviously, when we go into that in the security domain, somebody or the other will say, "Ye kaun log aa gaye? Why have they come here?" etc. But if there is a convergence of security interests, then the others will adjust to this. Right now, Saudi Arabia is still very much dependent on the US for security. They are going to try to diversify it. So what we have to do is to talk to them and see to what extent this diversification can also bring India into it. So that's what we have to see. It's not that all of a sudden Saudis will depend on India and we are not looking at that point of view. So it has to be a gradual thing. As you said, the naval exercises, etc., are happening in place. And for a long time, the Gulf countries have been telling us, be more involved in security. We who have been sort of shying back. I think that can change. And we can get Saudi Arabia to take interest in our defense manufacturing that is happening in India, because they have brought off, they can invest into this, and maybe some of this can go back to the Saudi. But all this needs to be talked to. We're still at the early stages. But I see some positive openings.
He would not like to be, pathetically dependent, being dependent on any country, even America. So there is also a requirement for them to become self-sufficient. That's what they want to. And they see in India an example of a country which is, holding on its own. It's not inclined towards any of the country. So some or the other may become a good role model for the world, and especially Saudi Arabia. And as the director is saying, that there is also a desire by them. Their corporate is completely American. There is a desire for them to switch out to their own indigenously made, equipment. And that is where our interests converge. So there are big possibilities which require to be explored.
So just to sum up, winds of change in Saudi Arabia and the region, and India needs to be far more proactive than it has been now to take advantage of the new transformations underway. Ambassador Gupta, Gen Sawhney, thank you very much, sir. Pleasure talking to you as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all we have for you on this edition of The Gist. Do join us for subsequent editions, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media and Twitter. Thank you very much. Good night.